Okay, here we are.
Let's see.
And we have, I'm going to say, like a powerhouse of content for tonight scheduled.
Yes,
So I'm glad people are kind of going to rewatch this on their own time because it's a
I
lot
agree.
of good, just wisdom and content, like I said. So it would be really, I think, just better for people to sit down with a pen and paper and take notes. So,
Absolutely. And utilize the pause button so you can get
yes.
all the
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
things down.
That's
Absolutely.
great. So, do you want to kick us off? We're going to be
Yeah.
talking about your vision building and executing.
Yes. Talking about vision tonight. And I love talking about vision because vision is just about utilizing the gifts and the purposes that God has placed in us
Right.
and seeing those like stewarded to the highest power in our lives. So it's such a great subject. Boundaries will come like the other subjects that are like, "Oh, wow, I feel that one." Those subjects are going to come, but
Yeah.
vision is like about dreaming the big dreams
Yeah.
and just saying, God, what do you have for my life? And so tonight we're just going to talk through some questions, talk about the importance of vision, how to like really um, tune in what your God-given vision is,
Yeah, that's good.
and then talk about like what would it mean if we didn't accomplish the vision that God has for our lives? Because we don't want that. And just a little extra motivation at the end. But today I like to start this topic of vision off with just imagining you're standing on a street. At the end of the street is like a big picture, whether that's a city, whether that's a beautiful landscape. But at the end of this road is kind of like the big picture. And that's really what vision is. Vision is that big picture that's kind
Mm.
of at the end of not our lives, but at almost the end of a runway. That's probably a better metaphor to use. Think of it at the picture at the end of a runway. Because what that's going to do is that's going to naturally help us build the boundaries, uh,
Mhm.
help us really fine tune our values.
Yeah,
And that gives us just a natural progression because
that's
once I
good.
have that vision in my mind, like some of these peripheral things, whether it's relationships, issues, things that just distract me, things that waste my time, they will naturally go to the sideline of this picture that you have because you're like, oh my goodness, I want to go there. That's where
There.
I want to go.
Yeah.
And I love it because in the Bible, it even says people without a vision, they will dwell carelessly or cast off restraint. And I think that is more than just being like, I'm going to live my life crazy.
Right.
I think
Right.
it's when you cast off restraint, it's you cast off every form of discipline in your life, so we lose the motivation to stay disciplined, whether that's building a business, building ourselves, making the investment in ourselves. We can oftentimes lose motivation, but when
Yeah.
we hone in our vision again, it allows us to just um, stay motivated, stay encouraged to keep on this journey, this runway to see that vision realized.
Love that. I think it's so important to establish that vision too. And sometimes God drops those visions in your heart, and you can literally get that distant painting, that distant vision of where you're heading, of your purpose, and it fuels that passion inside of you. And then I think sometimes the vision setting is more of an active process for us of
Yes.
tangibly figuring out what our gifts are, what our talents are, what we've been praying about, where we feel God calling us to go. And it's more of a journey that we need to walk out to establish that vision. And that's why I really love tonight's topic, because I think it's so critical, like you said, to have that vision, because there are going to be so many things in life to deter us from this path and try to take our distraction. We know the devil is just very active in trying to do that. So especially the more impact we have and the more people we have to influence, then we will find even more, just distractions in our path. So setting that vision is foundational to I think just personal and professional success.
I could not agree more. And I agree that sometimes it comes in an instant, right? It's
Yeah.
that prayer time, it's that service, it's you're walking around some place in the city and you see a storefront and it's like boom, the vision just happens before your eyes. But sometimes it
It does.
doesn't happen like that.
Right.
And it's okay.
Right.
Both ways are valid and beautiful. And I think both ways still take some application and some
Yes.
principles to put into play and put into practice, because sometimes we have that aha moment or we have that God dream moment. But the reality is, once we start putting pen to paper, or I guess we don't do that anymore, once we start typing it out on our smart
Yeah.
device, right?
Yeah.
It's like you really have to ask yourself the hard questions, because sometimes that instantaneous vision needs to be fine-tuned.
Yeah.
And so some of those things, I mean, we do need to make sure, even if that vision comes, let's say in a church service or at a
Or
conference,
listening to a song or like, yeah, speaking to a
in your
friend,
quiet time,
yeah,
yes,
quiet time.
we still have to make sure that we're submitting it to the Lord and saying, God, I got this vision. Like, what do you think about it? Spend some
Right.
time in reflection and prayer and asking the Holy Spirit, like, is this from you? Are you giving this to me? Journal about it.
Yeah.
Get some Bible around it, right? Like ask the Lord to speak to you through his word. But we need to ask the Lord, is this what you have for me? And is this the direction that I'm heading? Then you also just have to take the time to say, what are my core values? If you haven't already,
Yep.
uh, I just wanted to share. I looked up mine. I have them written down. I'm sorry, not completely memorized. I had a lot of stuff in my brain today. But these are my core values. Jesus, because he's always going to be number one, right? Generosity, loyalty, perseverance, grace, being all in, just buy in, right? And so if you haven't identified your core values, it'd be great to say, okay, this is the vision I believe God has given me. Does this match up with my core values? Or
Mm,
what are my core values? What do I
mhm.
stand for? What are some of the principles that I live my life by that help guide my decision making, and making sure that this vision aligns with
Yeah,
core values?
that's really good. And I think that um, those core values are given to us, by God, and that we all have different ones. Like, I think sometimes people think like, oh, we all have the same core values. And while we do for some, like we are daughters of God, like we have faith and we have
Yes.
Jesus at the center of our heart, like you said, number one, there are other values in our like our intertwined in our gifting that not everybody does have and value at the same level and the same priority. So it is really important to take the time to figure out, what you do value. And
Yes.
oftentimes that is a reflection of your character.
Yes.
So,
So
you
good.
have to ask yourself, okay, so who am I?
Yeah.
And what characteristics am I, are interwoven in me? Like you said, generosity, that's a great one, or encouragement,
Mm.
or compassion towards others, like these are all different types of values, and the list is different for everyone, especially in different prioritization.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I like that, because it's, you don't want to get into a place where you are just defaulting
Yeah.
your values
That's what I
to,
was, yeah, saying.
yeah, exactly. We don't want to be in that place. We want to be intentional with our values.
Yeah.
And we also need to be able to come back and check in and give
Right.
ourselves a little score. Am I
Right.
exemplifying these things that I believe deep within me are my core values?
So good. Accountability is so important. I don't think
Oh,
we're going to get far without accountability. So that's
no.
another like whole topic, I think.
The next kind of like filter for our God-given vision is we need to examine our passions and our gifts. What excites us? What activities? Um, it says, what activities may make you lose track of time? Uh,
Mm,
oh gosh, I just had this scripture in my head that, I just preached on it this weekend. When Jesus is meeting the woman at the well and the
yeah,
disciples come back with food and they're like, "Hey, Rabbi, eat." And he goes, "I have food you know not of.
right.
My food is to do the will of him who sent me."
Mm,
That's the way that it should feel in some respects. It doesn't mean it's not hard. Obviously, going to the cross was very, very hard for Jesus.
right.
It should feel that way when we are engaged in accomplishing the vision that God has been put on our lives. Like we should be able to almost lose track of time because it's fueling a place of us that is even greater than just our physical selves.
There's nothing more rewarding than doing the will of God and just knowing in those moments that He's actively using you. It's an overwhelming feeling. I live for it. I'm sure you do too. It's just so powerful and there's nothing like it. And that in those moments is my moment of purpose, when I feel just like most purposeful in what it is I'm doing.
Absolutely, 100%. So we examine our passions and our gifts, and then we reflect on past experiences. I do feel, using the woman at the well, for example, God
Yeah,
wants to take our past. He wants to take our
for
experience. He wants
sure.
to take what we have knowledge about. This woman was lived in horrible abuse, right? She had been rejected by the society. And because when she went back to the village and told everyone to come, they were curious because they're like, what the heck?
Right.
Like, this lady is jacked up. She's a mess, but she's telling us that she met someone thinking it could be the Messiah. Like,
What's
even,
going on?
yeah,
Yeah.
even if you're just looking for the tea, you're like, she doesn't talk to anyone. She like goes out to get her water in the middle of the day so that she avoids all of us. And now
Right.
she's like, talking to everybody. I got to go check this guy out. So I do think God wants to take even what the enemy has meant for evil in our life and turn it for our good and
Yeah.
utilize it in that vision.
Yep. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That was perfectly said.
Uh, and the fifth one that to talk about tonight is visualizing our future self and just asking ourselves, like, hey, when I look into the future, what do I see for me? What am I doing? Like, what's the end game here that I will feel? Again, this might change. Like, these things can be adjusted. I get it. We might get 25 years down the road. I tell you, if you asked Wendy when we started the church 20 years ago, what I saw in 20 years,
Yeah.
I could not have painted an accurate
Where-
picture.
right. Or where you are today, I bet.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, it did allow to keep me motivated throughout the journey, even though that picture changed a little bit during the journey.
Yeah.
But that was
Yeah.
okay because I knew
Yeah.
I
Well,
was,
that's what I think is true with like visions and, big advantageous goals that we set. It's okay if they change,
yes,
but I think that having them there is that initial step that makes us take that initial step of faith out, that makes us a risk taker, and that puts the whole process in motion. If it kind of just sits there in the distance and we don't do anything about it, then we're not using our faith
yeah,
and it's not going to come to fruition.
absolutely, completely.
Yeah. So number 6, going off of that one, because that was really good, is to start small and experiment. So, like we were just talking about, take action in those areas that you feel drawn to. Um, and I also think a really good part about this specific point is to break it down.
Ooh,
A lot of the times when we do vision setting or goal setting, it's overwhelming and it feels like, wow, that is a big picture. How do I even get there? And so I think critical to set that vision and goal, but also critical to break it down. So then work backwards, okay, so if that's going to be my end goal, what do I need to be doing on a monthly, on a weekly, on a daily basis in order to achieve that, so that every day I'm taking one step closer to that. It might be a small step, but I know I'm actively working towards it. And God may change the path on the way there, or I might get another vision or a new connection that alters it a little. But the more and more you step into it, he's going to clarify and he's going to guide you. But you gotta meet him
You
in
gotta
it.
meet him.
Yeah. So I think that breaking it down into more digestible steps, and that's just really been critical for me personally too, whenever I do a vision setting exercise and I want to achieve goals. You got to make it
Oh,
digestible.
yeah, I completely agree. I just had a coaching session this week with someone that just the goal setting was off because it was so unrealistic in the timetable given. And
Yeah.
she was struggling with disappointment because she was just expecting these massive leaps in between these goals. And I was like, whoa, time out. Like, we have a lifetime to accomplish all of this. Like, let's take this a little bit
Right.
slower. Maybe set one goal. Let's
Yeah.
accomplish that. Then we'll go on to the next. So
Yeah,
good.
and that happens a lot too. We just have to break the goal down itself, even of like, okay, is this too much in a short time? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. And it's such a good segue because the next one is consult wise counsel. So, like we briefly touched about before, about have the importance of accountability. And as we are stepping more and more into achieving our vision and into this walk of faith, it's so important to have supportive, like minded people who share our same core values and faith, God at the center of our heart, to hold us accountable and help guide us because we only know what we know.
Yes.
We don't know everything, we can't see things from all angles. And so I think that this is just another critical aspect of helping us to walk out our purpose driven life.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, there's never a better investment than investing in yourself. There's
No.
literally no better investment. And I think women need to hear that. They need to
Yeah.
hear it's okay to invest in yourself. It's okay to put
Totally.
actual money towards your growth and get a coach, get a
Yep.
mentor, get a helper. There's lots of free opportunities out there. And I know we're kind of preaching to the choir because you're a part of Equip Her Forward, but the
Yeah.
conferences, chapters of different organizations in your community.
Mentors. Yeah. I mean,
Goodness,
I was
valuable.
I was just listening to someone saying the other day, a very successful leader and entrepreneur, that the more successful you get, the more accountability and wise
Mm,
counsel you better have surrounding you. Because
amen.
like as I mentioned before, the more success you bring, the more impact you are having in the lives of those around you, the devil will try to tear you down. There will be distractions, and you will need a support system, period.
100%. Carrie, I am so surprised how many people, I think just in naivety or sometimes just being young, they think like, well, once I'm the boss, like I'm gonna have all the freedom in the world. And the reality is it's the total
More.
opposite.
Yeah.
You
It's
have more
nonstop.
nonstop accountability, literally nonstop
Right.
accountability. And it's good and it's healthy and we need it and we should embrace it.
That's right.
100%.
So as you're journeying along in your purpose for achieving your vision and your goals, defining that kingdom impact is so critical. That's point number 8 that we have outlined here. And asking yourself, how does this vision serve God's kingdom? Because most often, if there is no direct correlation into serving and expanding God's kingdom, I would challenge you to reflect on if that's really your purpose driven vision in life.
Good.
Because I just know from experience that serving yourself for your own reputation or pride or role or business without God at the center of anything you're doing is going to most likely result in emptiness or a void or loneliness or just lack of purpose.
Yeah.
So it's imperative to early on in your vision setting process to define that
Yeah.
kingdom impact and how you can focus on how you can use your gifts, which includes your business skills as an
Yes.
entrepreneur, as a manager, as an employee, where you are right now in your career, how you can use that, how God can use you to serve his kingdom because he can. And
And
I think it's important to just identify that. And that
absolutely.
helps tremendously also in just clarifying and giving clarity to your vision.
Yeah. And I would just encourage anyone who's listening, taking notes and just thinking about this. I know Carrie and I found such a outlet with coaching and helping other people just in that mentorship role. And so maybe when you were starting out, you had a hard time finding a mentor. I think that was a great indication that the Lord wants you to help mentor some
Yeah.
other people and
Mhm.
give back to them. But let's not relegate like God's kingdom to just ministry or church related activities.
Right.
You can be, you can have kingdom impact in every single segment of
That's right.
society today and should.
Yeah, and I hope that's what Equip Her encourages us all to do. That wherever you are in the math, especially in business, you have that ability to have a kingdom impact. So, yeah, that one is just like imperative, I think. And then point number 9, we have as clarifying your why.
Mm,
Again, this, we could say this is a little bit of everything that we've already discussed,
yeah.
but what, and your why is driven from your passion. What is that seed? What is that fire, that drive that God's planted in your heart that gets you excited, gets you motivated? Identify that and ask yourself, okay, if this is what I'm really passionate about, how can I be using it to serve God's kingdom?
Yes.
Combine point number 8 and 9 together to help you
Yes.
identify that why. Um, and I know, Pastor Wendy, on this outline too, you had a really good, simple practice of when it comes to defining your why, of filling in the blank to
Yeah.
that phrase. Share that. I love
Yeah.
that.
You just fill in the blank. I am called to blank, the specific purpose you're called to, so that blank, you will have this very specific impact. And it doesn't have to even work exactly like that. I know for mine, mine's more like a picture almost.
Hmm.
And every single time I get discouraged or down or lacking motivation
Yes.
or, just a little sluggish
I'm
in
the
the
same. I have
journey,
that picture. Yeah.
I just imagine, I literally have a snapshot in my head of whether it's a Sunday morning or
Mhm.
Equip Her conference,
Yep,
but
rooms crowded.
I
Yeah.
have that whole room just crowded, jam-packed with people. And like I can literally in my mind's eye think of different individuals. And that's my why. That's why
Yep.
we continue, right? It's for people. But there
So
might
true.
be a specific people group that really minister to you. Obviously, for Carrie and I, we're all about women.
Yeah.
Um, yours might be broader or narrower, and that's okay too. But what's that picture look like for you?
So good. And also I loved hearing some of the testimonial stories that we've just received over the past few years of women, because they came to Equip Her, they have decided to just they became more courageous and confident and start their own business, and now it's thriving. Or women who haven't found, they felt a little lost and insecure and just hadn't found their true identity in their career and their role, and because they came to Equip Her, they met amazing connections and networking, and now they're thriving. Like, those are my why. So in addition to what you said of having like that clear picture and vision, hearing these stories from our women and our members it means everything to me. That is my why. And so I think identifying the why early on for you, but then also as you do step more and more into your vision, and you get things like that attached that help like fuel that fire inside of you, I think those are also affirmations from God
Mhm.
that you are walking down the right path. So I think
So
they're twofold, to motivate you and encourage you and support your why, but also to say like you're doing it. Like you're in the right lane. Keep doing what you're doing.
yeah,
So I
just
would
to,
just be aware to those. Yeah.
yeah, just to say yes and amen to what you're saying. I just completely agree. I have stuffed sometimes in my Bible or in my journal. I'll
Mhm.
keep cards that people send. I screenshot if someone writes like a really super encouraging something on social media. I'll screenshot that, put that in a folder. You
Oh,
need
that's
to have, all of us need to have these. Like we
yeah.
need the continued fuel to motivate us as we begin to accomplish everything that God has
Yeah.
for us. 100%.
That's good. And the last point I have is to trust the process. And like you mentioned before, it might not be on the timeline that we have exactly pinned down. In fact, it most likely won't be on our timeline.
Probably won't be.
Let's just accept that from day one. But it will be on God's perfect timeline for us and our story. So what's so bad about that? I think nothing. So yeah, I think that, being patient and obedient, saying yes, praying about things, and just going through what we previously just talked about, having wise counsel around you, vision setting, all these things play such an intricate role in this last point, which is overall trust, take that risk, take that faithful step out of your comfort zone. God's got you, He's in it with you, and take that initial step towards achieving that vision.
I love that. Obviously, this section comes with a lot of homework. I'll just go over the 10 things in case anyone didn't get all of them written down. Number one, seek God through prayer and reflection. Number two, identify your core values. Number three, examine your passions and gifts. Number four, reflect on past experiences. Number five, visualize your ideal future. Number six, start small and experiment. Number seven, consult wise counsel. Number eight, define a kingdom impact. Number nine, clarify your why. And number 10, trust the process.
That's good.
So good.
And then the third section of this little discussion that we have outlined is overcoming our barriers in
Yeah.
order to achieve our vision. And to give you an idea of what maybe some of these barriers are, I think a lot of it is actually just imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
self doubt that we have.
Yeah.
Is just, oh, I'm not good enough, or this is impossible, or God must have chosen the wrong person because I can't do this, just all those doubtful thoughts, which I've had every single one of those before. I are those barriers, that prevent us, I think, from taking that initial step, which is the most important step. So I just encourage everybody here today to really put their fears aside, put your insecurities and your doubts aside, and be confident in who you are, in the gifts God's given you, and know in His promises that He's with you. He's going to equip you. There's nothing you can do. I mean, like, as long as Christ is inside of you, you can do
Yes.
anything. Nothing is impossible. And when you have those promises just etched in your heart, then I think it's pretty hard to allow that to be overridden by our self doubt and insecurity. But
So
it's a real problem. We
yeah,
all struggle with it. You're not the only one. I just think, attack those thoughts with God's promises and those affirmations.
absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
I I think I think it was Myron Golden this week, but he was talking about there's not one God-given vision for your life that you should be able to accomplish by yourself. Otherwise, it's not from God, right?
Mm,
And so with that comes some of that imposter syndrome, some of that
yeah.
self-doubt. Because the reality is you really can't do it without the Lord, without Him empowering you, and without His favor and grace that's on your life.
So
Um,
true.
and so being okay, like in that tension, being okay in that, like it's a little bit uncomfortable because it's stretching you and it's growing you and it's growing
Yeah.
your faith, hope, trust in God. And so I think we have to just measure some of those feelings and say, okay, my feelings are telling me this, but that's because I know this is a little bit beyond me so that God can come in and make them.
Right. Like they're bringing that realization to your heart that you can't do it alone and you need to lean on God. And that's why those thoughts, could be healthy. But
Yeah,
when you start to allow those thoughts to control your progress or your situation instead of allowing God to step in, then I think that's where the little
I
difficulty
totally, yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, if you believe those thoughts, if you start believing those
Yes.
thoughts, yeah, absolutely. So how do we live out this vision, right? And make sure that our vision impacts more than just ourselves,
I
but
love
that we are a great influence to others and we're glorifying God, right? So what are some practical steps that you and I can take? Number one, clarify our priorities. Because sometimes there can be
Yeah.
a big vision, but then there can be a vision for your relationships, right? There can be a vision for your friendships. There can be a personal vision for your life. And so, what are you going to put your time and energy into? Sometimes I just take an inventory of literally the hours a week I'm putting into different categories of my life
Mhm.
just to make sure I'm actually
Really
keeping
good.
the main thing, if that makes
I
sense.
like
Like
that. That's really good.
actually putting the energy into what God is doing in Equip Her and the opportunities that he's giving us and being a good
Yeah.
steward of that. And I need to make sure that I'm actually putting the most time towards the most important thing.
It's really good.
So kind of take an inventory of your priorities. And sometimes we can say things are a priority, but the reality is if we look at our week, it's really not our
So true.
priority.
It's so
So
true.
so have the moment of reality check in a good way, like in a good,
Yeah.
make sure you're not suffering from the imposter syndrome and thinking you're less than when you do this, okay? Because this might spiral you. But take the time to just take that personal inventory and be like, okay, these really are my priorities. This is what I want to be my priorities. So am I spending my time
I love that.
next those priorities?
I love that. I'm going to do that. I mean, it's true. And sometimes we do get into busy seasons, you know, for me personally, the past few weeks, we've been moving literally from another state, another home, and there's so many things that have to be done amidst traveling, amidst, all the assignment work and everything with Equip Her and just other things. But you're right. Sometimes my days get away, and you're just like, wait, how much time have I actually spent doing what I'm meant to be doing, and it's just a good, I'm going to say like alignment
Yeah,
check
it
that we
is.
should be doing. So that's really good. And I think that there are obviously like seasons of grace, and like there are
100%.
seasons of rest and recharge. So don't get me wrong.
There are
But
seasons you have to move states.
yeah, I know. But at the same time, like I'm also hard on myself,
Yeah,
like
we all are.
yeah.
Let's be real. We're all very hard on
Right.
ourselves. We probably
Yeah.
wouldn't be in this group if we weren't.
I know that's true. I'm gonna have to be like keeping an hour log, and Brian will be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, Wendy told me to keep my hours. Like, it's a good idea.
Somebody, I don't know if I said this on one of our Instagram lives or if it
Yeah.
was one of my other coachings. We kind of have a lot of balls in the air right now.
Yeah,
But
kinda.
yes, but someone actually did like an overview of their week and they counted up all the hours that they worked on anything. And then they added up how much they made that week and then divided it to see what an hour actually cost them.
And
And then
they,
and then go make a decision about am I going to
right,
watch the show? Am I going to like
right.
for real? And self-care is important. So, I mean, we watch a show like every night to decompress and
Yeah,
Ben sleeps through half of it and it's great, right?
yeah,
But so I'm not saying don't have self-care. We should have self.
right. It's true.
I'm not promoting being workaholics, But like
No.
talk about a wake-up call, like actually see what an hour of this life cost you because
And it might be the opposite for a lot of busy business people who are just glued to their
oh, that's
computer or the
really good.
office or the phone because it's the demand that is required of them, and they actually find themselves, but wait, family is my priority, my church community is my priority. How much time am I spending there? And you might be surprised. So it can be the opposite too, and I
100%.
think we're all, if we're all at different parts in our lives or seasons, I've experienced that too. So, like my husband and I in the past, we've gone through seasons where we just like our ship sit in the wind, and you're like,
Well,
wait a
we're
minute, this
roommates. We're
isn't
literally
right.
roommates.
Yeah, this isn't right.
Yes.
So it's
Good.
important to do that. That's really good.
Yes.
Really good.
That's kind of, it goes along with number two, which is just set boundaries. Like
Yeah.
I think the higher the impact, the less, almost the less the commitments, or the commitments just have to be high impact commitments.
Right. They have to be worth your yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
they really do. And and there has to be, I think, an investment opportunity. And sometimes that investment is relationship.
Right.
The
It's a
investment
connection.
is
Yeah.
100%. This is not all about money or bottom lines by
Yes.
any means. But yeah, sometimes it's like I'm going to make this commitment because this is a value
Yep.
and this is a priority. And so this is a worthwhile commitment for me. But sometimes it's just okay. It's okay to say no.
I
And it's okay
know.
to say
Yeah.
no because you're just emotionally overextended. I just want to give permission to everyone. It's
Yes.
okay to say no when you
Totally.
are emotionally extended. I have to tell you, Carrie, every single time I have pushed beyond what I know I should. There are times you have to push because of family obligations and things like that, and it just wouldn't be right to say no
Right. Right. Right.
for major life milestones.
For
But anytime
sure.
I've kind of pushed myself beyond for something that I could have said no to, inevitably I have that one or two interaction that I'm going home obsessing about because I was tired or I let down too much and I let something come out of my mouth or I got irritated or my
Right.
kids say that my face has subtitles. So they're always like, fix your face, fix your face, fix your face. And
That's
so, but
hysterical.
like my face starts going crazy, right? And it all leads back to knowing I'm emotionally spent.
Yeah.
I've given everything I could give. I need to say no because it's not going to be good.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. It's okay to say no. In fact, you have to learn how to say no,
Yes.
you just do.
Yeah.
Because you can't
Really.
be everywhere. You can't do everything. You can't.
Yeah. And then our last step, number three, for practical steps for living out your vision is, Carrie said this so beautifully, take action. What's one step that you can take
Yeah.
this week that
Yeah.
gets you closer to accomplishing that vision? Um, and I just encourage all of us to just keep in the back of our minds,
Mhm.
sometimes if that picture of your why isn't motivating enough, maybe you're really struggling, maybe you're
Right.
struggling with imposter syndrome, maybe there's just a lot of self-doubt, maybe it's not growing like it should, maybe it's not sustaining itself financially yet, right? Maybe you're working two jobs because you're starting one, but you still have to support
Yeah.
yourself or your family. I want you to remember who is on the other side or who's going to benefit from you accomplishing that vision.
Yeah.
I know that they might be a little faceless, a little fuzzy right now because you might not know their name, but
Mhm.
I just want you to think like, what will happen when you say yes and God takes your yes and puts other people around you in divine relationship,
Yeah.
and who is going to be changed forever because you said yes, because
Yeah.
you continued to pursue that vision and pursue the dream that God has given you. I just think that there's so many people that can be impacted for good for all of eternity. Like you don't even know. You might not be a Christian organization, and that's okay because you don't have to have Christian in front of your name for people to know that you're
Right.
a kingdom woman, right?
Right.
But who could you minister to? Who could you encourage? Who could you build
Right.
up? what gifts and callings could you call out of other people
Right.
because you've pursued this vision God has put in your life? I know for me,
Yeah.
I have to frequently, it has to go beyond me. Because if it was just about me, I probably would have quit a long time ago, right? It has to be beyond just me. Like, I need to remember the young girls that are just like thinking this is the best thing ever. And, you know, think about the young entrepreneurs that come to Equip Her, and they get to grow up in a completely different community than
Totally.
Carrie and I grew up in.
Totally. I wish there was
Very
this, but yeah.
male dominated
Yes.
like, and what a joy that is. And
No, it's totally
provide.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I've just learned through my entire experience is that God's plan is always way bigger than we can possibly imagine. So when you talk about thinking about the person on the other side, thinking about that ripple effect, oftentimes we can't even really comprehend the full picture of how God is at work because it surpasses anything we could have even dreamt. So I just also want to encourage the ladies listening that even the vision you do develop and you do have for yourself, when God is in it, it's going to be bigger and it's going to be better. And it's going to blow your mind. So that I know there's so many little difficulties in getting and to achieving that, whether it's the imposter syndrome or the distractions or those things we've talked about, but getting comfortable with stepping into the uncomfortable zone and taking that risk, trusting God, that's exciting to me because I know his plan is beyond good for me. Like he has the best plan for me because he knows my potentials and
Yeah.
gifts inside of me that I may not even know exist yet. You know what I mean? So he knows the full story and he's a good God. He's not a bad God. Like that's not the God we serve.
Yeah.
So whenever I think that way, of his characteristics and who he is and what he knows about, I get like amped up. I'm ready. I just want to go out and chase after that vision. So I just want to encourage you guys listening today that
Good.
as much as you might find yourself getting down in moments because of it's overwhelming or you know it's going to be good and it's going to be bigger than you could really possibly imagine.
It is. It is. And I want to encourage everybody with just this thought. And because I think about it a lot, and I don't know if it's just
Yeah.
age, it could probably be age, but God is a generational God, God of Abraham, Isaac,
Yes.
and Jacob. And we are not just creating wealth or jobs or opportunity. We could literally change someone's life so drastically that generations
That's
benefit
right.
from the opportunities that we are providing through starting a businesses,
Yes.
um, through just continuing the 501(c)(3) that we're going to start, and saying, yes, Lord, lead me, guide me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
here, I will do
We
your.
don't know all the details of how to do everything we do, but we learn as we go. We trust God. We surround ourselves with people who can help us, who can hold us accountable, we believe can bring us to where we need to take that next step further. Those all these things are so important and you learn as you go. You trust the process.
Yeah. And Benny said something today. We were laughing because I was like, we were talking about, I don't even remember which conversation it was specifically, but I was like, I mean, it's okay. Like, you win some, you lose some. And he's like, I don't lose, I learn. And I was like, well, I hope you don't have to learn too much. Just meaning, like, we do learn. We really
Yeah.
don't lose.
Yeah,
Even when
it's
we fail,
true.
we're learning. Carrie, think of how many times
Yeah.
we adjusted
Yes.
and switched and fixed and tinkered with and moved things around. And we every year we're doing it at the conference. We're constantly
Yep. Trying new things.
to
And
the
I
office
think one of
trying
the
to
beautiful
things.
things about our partnership in business is that we are able in the beginning of a new initiative to say, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we have to try it,
Yeah,
and we both are always in alignment on that. Of course, we're we think about things, we don't just try everything. But, if we both believe like, yeah, this could be another new good angle or idea or project, let's try it because we're never going to know unless we do. And it's the same for you today. You're never going to know unless you say yes to God. If he's planted that seed and that calling in your heart and you've prayed about it and you feel drawn towards it.
Yep, absolutely. No losing, only learning.
That's right. I love that. It's
Only
true.
learning.
Yep.
I just didn't, I was like not ready to learn anymore today.
Yeah. You're like, I'm
Can I
tapped out
just
in my
win?
learning capacity. I'm done. Losing starting now.
I know. Time out on the learning. Just feels like lost today.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, we love you in the Kajabi community.
Yes.
We put a really nice outline for you over there that is just a vision exercise.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
guys can print it out.
Yeah, vision framework exercise. It literally just takes you step by step, all the questions you need to ask yourself to
Really good.
walk this out, literally,
Yeah.
like step by step, 6 steps, reflection exercises. Who am I? What has shaped me? What do I want? Write your why statement, explore the spheres of life. So look at your whole life, dream bigger exercise, action planning, and then visual representation, which this is like a little side note, Carrie. I don't know how you vision board because I'm not like an old fashioned,
I
like,
wrote down vision board on my notes, but we never like really talked about it. But go ahead.
so I'll just show you this is my vision board. It's just right here on my phone. And I
It's
do a new one every year. I usually do it this around, if God speaks to me, I'll change it throughout the year, but this is my for 48. So it's live in peace, create joy, love uncritically. My reward is to remain. And
But see, I love how you just visually showed me that because I think a lot of people, when they hear that phrase vision boarding, you think of cutting, at least I do,
yes,
like
100%.
collaging.
Collaging. Yes, you think of a
A lot,
collage.
I do. Like, let me get 17 and YM and you remember those magazines?
Do they still have 17?
I don't know, but I used to collage from those magazines, you guys.
Of course. We all did. Love
Oh.
that.
So that's what I think of as collage, but
I
it's
did write
different
collage.
for
I apologize.
everyone. But it's different. So that was so good that you sent that because I think sometimes, like, I'm a creative person, and that vision boarding, I always say to myself, you got to do it, you got to do it. And I believe having it in front of you is very important in order to achieve the visions, but I have not had a chance to buy a stack of mags and put glue to cardboard. So that in itself is another reason I'm glad you showed that because it doesn't have to be that. It can be a simple, worded image just like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I used to love those vision boards because again, I'm creative, so it's just
Yeah.
like fun, like a fun exercise, but then I never knew what to do with them. Like I'm
Me
not going
too.
to put it up in my house because it
I
just
know.
like
Like
no,
I used to put it in my room, but I'm not
yeah.
doing that anymore. I know what am I gonna do? Frame it?
I
But
feel
then
like I grew out of that. Yeah.
no. I don't know what
But
women do when they do it. I don't know.
if you love your collage vision board, then I think you just need to embrace that and just love
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. And you have like a dedicated space for it.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. I travel a lot. And so having it for on
Yeah,
my phone.
that's really good. I love that.
Yeah.
So practical. And it's your wallpaper, so you just see it every day.
Every
Yeah,
single day.
that's really good.
Yeah. Remind myself.
I love it. Okay, so
Well,
far I'm counting my hours each day and changing my wallpaper.
time to re-wallpaper. Here we go.
Free wallpaper on the phone.
I love it. That's so fun. Well, ladies, we hope that you got a lot out of tonight and today, whenever you're watching it and playing back, and are encouraged to continue to live out that amazing vision God-given vision for your
And we
life.
are here to support you along the way.
Absolutely, 100%.
Have a great day, ladies, and we'll see you next time here at Equip Her Zoom live sessions.